Badger Nation? I'm Sonny the Badger.
And I'm Angie Mama Badger from The Badgers and the Biker Lifestyle on Facebook and sportbikers.com. Today,
we have Jared Weems in the house.
Which you can tell I'm a big fan of.
If you've ever seen him or met him, you're a big fan. I don't know anybody that wouldn't be a fan of his. He does fantastic bike builds. He raises money for charity. Just an all-around great guy.
He's the best family ever.
Right. I don't know how you beat that. So if you don't know who he is, look him up. You'll be a huge fan as well.
Right. So speaking of looking up, he is on supportbikers.com, but we're going to have him introduce himself, where he's located, what he's currently doing right now, and how everybody can find you so that they can follow along.
In today's episode, we're going to talk to him about raffling off a motorcycle. So he raffled off a motorcycle for charity, raised this insane amount of money off a bike that he built for Forgotten Angels in Tampa. And so we want to talk to him about the process that it took kind of from the idea to the end. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
So how do you build a bike and raise money to help out an organization?
Sweet. Well, thanks, number one, for having me on, guys. It's such an awesome opportunity every time I run into you guys. I am Jared Weems. I am the sole proprietor, the sole worker, the manager, the builder, everything. I'm the only guy at Weems Motor Co. You can find me online. My website is www.weemsmotorco.com. On Instagram, it's weemsmotorco.tampa. And the same thing on Facebook, Weems Motor Co. I also do YouTube, motovlogger. Simply look me up on YouTube, and that's Weems Motor Co. My heart, my purpose is right here above me, Triumph motorcycles, especially vintage Triumph motorcycles from the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Love to do them. Custom builder, built some show bikes, toured around. Back in 2018, about midsummer 2018, I was speaking with Mike Davis from Born Free, major show in California, and he had known me as a Triumph builder, and he's a huge fan of vintage Triumphs himself, and he had asked me to bring a couple bikes to display at the show, and at that time I decided to build a 1952 Triumph Speed Twin motorcycle based off of a David Mann painting, and that kind of started this journey of building a motorcycle, getting back into the custom motorcycle building scene.
How much did it raise when the raffle ended?
So yeah, we were able to raise $106,200 for Forgotten Angels.
And then on top of that, that bike is now in the Barber Museum?
Correct, yeah. So a lot of people don't know that, but yeah, the winner of the motorcycle, he chose to take the motorcycle and donate it to Barber Museum in Birmingham, Alabama.
So that motorcycle will live on forever in a museum. So that is, that's pretty freaking awesome.
It's pretty epic. And man, the day we dropped it off that was a historic event in my life. They literally wanted me to roll the motorcycle through the main doors of the museum, and it was just so awesome.
Oh, wow. That feeling, that gives me goosebumps right now.
Oh, yeah.
I could imagine what you were going through for that. Oh,
so, you know what I say, putting good out, good comes back.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
that is just so awesome.
Yeah,
so anyway, you built that bike. You were what, about 3/4 of the way through that when you decided that you were actually going to donate it?
Yeah, so I had just entered into the final assembly portion of the motorcycle and got the opportunity to meet David and Cindy, the president and executive director for Forgotten Angels in Florida, and was just really inspired by what they were doing to help these kids who have aged out of the foster care system. And in that moment, I just said, hey, I don't have money because I just spent all of my money building this motorcycle. But what I do have is a motorcycle. And what I want to do is give you guys that motorcycle so that you guys can raffle it off and raise some money to continue doing all of the support and help that they were doing for these kids.
At this point, you've decided to donate the bike. You're going to raffle it, but you had no idea how to run a motorcycle raffle in Florida.
Yeah, so it was a 100% donation. They did not give me a penny for the motorcycle. I did not receive a penny from any of the donations made through the raffle. 100% donation to them, and that started this ball rolling. Well, how do we do this? Number one, we want to make sure that we're legally all of our T's and I's, all of that stuff is taken care of. So we got in contact with a lawyer and looked up the Florida state rules and regulations for as far as running a raffle, because a raffle in the state of Florida is considered gambling. And just nobody off the street can run a raffle. It would be illegal. Some of those rules and regulations are changing right now due to online gambling and things like that. So you have to really get in touch with somebody who knows the laws, who knows the regulations. So we contacted a lawyer, and because Forgotten Angels is a 501c3 nonprofit, they are legally able to conduct a raffle. So at that point, we said, hey, we got a thumbs up to do this. And I knew that within my reach and the relationships and friendships that I had, I would be able to help support what was going on. And Forgotten Angels, it's only David and Cindy. And man, they have a busy life. They're taking care of between 20 and 30 kids at a time. And so they don't have time to do a raffle. So I stepped in and said, you know what? I'm going to support you guys. This is going to be another donation on top of the motorcycle. I will run this raffle for you. Yeah, so once we found out we were able to do everything legally through the lawyer, we set up a set of bylaws, a set of rules and regulations for the raffle, what the winner was obligated to do, how the prize was going to be delivered, and a lot of different things that, you see these rules and regulations, but they're very important because it not only legally supports the winner, the people who are donating, but also the people who have are conducting the raffle. So yes, the next part was like, okay, well, we're going to raffle this off. How are we going to do? Are we going to go down to the local bike night and just sit at a table with this roll of raffle tickets, which is cool and all, but I knew that this was going to be bigger than just a bike night event. I knew that this was going to become at least a national event, because the motorcycle was built for board free. So I knew I was going to be on the road traveling to many different states. And so we wanted to make sure that each person that donated, each person that purchased a raffle ticket can follow the progress of what's going on, that can know that, their little paper ticket wasn't lost in somebody's bag. So I started doing research, and I found a program. It's called RAFFLEcreator.com. And they offer packages for anybody to run a raffle. Angie, if you wanted to raffle off your super awesome Weems Motor Co shirt that you have on, and you said, hey, I want to sell 10 raffle tickets, that program has different tiers, different levels to be able to utilize that. So it's an online raffle, which means each person that buys a ticket, they can be in Washington State, New York, Texas, wherever they're from. They can go online and purchase a ticket, and their name goes into an online database. And not only your name, but whatever the person who is setting up the raffle, the requirements, whether it be address, email address, phone number, name of their third child, whatever you want to have on there, you can put that within the system, and it creates an online database. And what's great about that is it takes the responsibility of me, the guy selling the tickets, that I don't lose somebody's ticket. Their information, they go online, they go to the website, they put their information in correctly, and the system tracks them from there. So they have essentially 3 packages, I believe, on Raffle Creator. The first one doesn't cost anything, but it's only you're only allowed to sell 10 tickets. And then the next tier, you're allowed to sell, I think, 250 tickets. And then the final tier was infinite. And I knew that I had a feeling that we were going to sell a lot of tickets. So I was like, let's just go ahead and get the last tier. I think it was like $250 for infinite tickets. Just another cost that I assumed. I didn't want to take anything from Forgotten Angels, so I paid for $250, and we ended up selling 5,001 tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so then the next thing is getting the word out. So how did you get the word out about what you were doing?
So yeah, a super cool story on that was when I first sat down with David and Cindy, I kind of threw the idea at them. You know, they asked, well, honestly, what do you think we could raise with this motorcycle? It's a vintage motorcycle. You know, it hasn't been seen by the public. It has no notoriety behind it. Weems Motor Co. is, people kind of know me, but they don't really know me. So like, what do you realistically think we can raise? And I told him, I was like, I feel that we could probably push $40,000. And when I left that meeting, David came back months later and told me that him and Cindy said, well, we'd be happy if you just raised 20,000. And so that started that process of like, okay, well, we're going to do this, and I'm not going to, you know, cut it short. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. So I brought in a photographer, and I wanted to make sure that we had quality photographs, that we had good content, that we had the connection between Weems Motor Co., the motorcycle, and Forgotten Angels. So number one thing would be get good media. Get good media. Don't just snap pictures with your cell phone. Go ahead and invest. Reach out to people. If you are doing something that you're passionate about, and you're able to communicate that passion to someone else and inspire them to be a part of the project that you're part of, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get people that say, I want to be a part of this. I want to either donate my time, donate my talent, or donate my voice to be able to spread the words. And that's what you're talking about is, you know, how do you get the word out there? Well, great photographer came in, donated all of his time, all of his energy to capture those moments. I even brought some of the kids from Forgotten Angels in when we were doing the final assembly. He came over, did some video, did some pictures, and we created this media package that we can share with people to inspire them to support what's going on by purchasing raffle tickets. Through that, starting to share on social media, starting to push the stuff out. I made some great connections with some YouTubers, some people in the podcast world, some people in all sorts of different media. I got interviewed by people that weren't motorcycle people, which was always fun for me because you kind of talk about motorcycle, they have the craziest questions. But so through that, that's just the building. That's not even the launch. This is just building the anticipation of, hey, this is happening. It's about to begin. You want to be a part of this. And so that's kind of what gets that ball rolling, that steam behind it. Don't get in, if you're doing a raffle, don't get in a rush. You don't need the money tomorrow. Take your time, build the anticipation, make sure that you have quality, you know, media, quality support. So make sure that you, number one, you have an amazing product, because people don't want to purchase a ticket for something that's like, meh, you could just go to Walmart and buy that. Make sure that you have quality media, something that people can see visually, like, okay, this is a quality product, and I see that it's a quality product. And then after that, make sure that you have quality immersion into the media to let people know, spread out. Don't get so boxed in saying that, all right, I'm doing a motorcycle, so I'm just going to focus on motorcycle people. No, there's people that if you have, you know, that passion behind it, regardless if they're a motorcycle person or not, they might be just inspired to support your organization or what you're doing because they have it in their heart to do so also. They could care less what the prize is. They just want to be part of the movement of what you're doing. So kind of the idea was, I originally sat down with David and Cindy. I think it was around the August, or no, it wasn't August. It was around the May time frame. And I knew that this motorcycle had to be completed on such date because we had to be at Born Free. So we sat down and I said, give me 6 months to, number one, finish the motorcycle. And number two, build this anticipation. And we just set a date. We set, I believe it was August the 5th was the date that I wanted to launch the raffle. The raffle starts on this date. So that set a timeline for me to make sure that I had all my T's crossed and all my I's dotted to make sure everything was ready to go. And in the meantime of that is what I was building all of those relationships. People like Lowbrow Customs jumped on board and said, hey, we really like what you're doing. We're going to send you this $500 prize package of all kinds of swag, all kinds of things from our website. We want to be a part of it. Builtwell jumped on board and said, man, that motorcycle has the same painting as, the same paint job as our Builtwell Gringo helmet. We're going to donate one of those to you. And then the connection with David Mann, the David Mann official store, said, hey, we're going to send you a bunch of our swag. So a lot during that 6 months, a lot of things kept getting added on top, and we had to go back and change the rules, regulations, and some of the legal stuff to add those prize packages and how we were going to award those prizes. First ticket pulled is going to be the motorcycle and the painting. Second ticket's going to be this, yada yada yada. And within the Raffle Creator Program, you can go in and set all those criteria. You can have different prize packages and how you're going to pull the tickets. So that gave us that idea of like 6 months, I believe, is a good, comfortable time to be able to build everything that we need to have that anticipation and ready to launch. So, yeah.
And that's a good problem to have.
Yes.
People reaching out and saying,
yes, no, absolutely. Having 6 months to complete something is not always the greatest, but it does give you a timeline rather than to just say, hey, we're going to do this tomorrow, which if you, just like I said, take your time. Don't get into this huge rush. If you launch something tomorrow, then the day after you realize like, hey, I just had somebody reach out. It's a lot harder to add things once it's started than it is to have everything together once it's over. Because I did have a couple organizations reach out afterwards and said, man, I really wish we would have been a part of this. The next time you do this, call us. So you keep that stuff in your Rolodex because I'm sure you're going to ask me a question about that here in a little bit. But so yeah, don't get in a rush. Take your time. Once it's launched, we did the August 5th launch. What I wanted to make sure that is that all of the connections that I had through the last 6 months, which included people like Shade Tree Surgeon, one of the YouTubers, and several other YouTubers that jumped on board, I wanted to make sure that we did some sort of launch event, because this is the first time that Forgotten Angels have done anything to kind of this level. And I wanted to make sure that people can have different avenues of seeing, hey, this is going now. We've heard about it for 6 months. Now it's a thing. We're actually launching. So we launched the event, and at that point, through the prior 6 months, I knew that, hey, Bike Week's coming up. They got this bike night thing going on. I'm going to Born Free. This other show is going on. So I knew that I was going to be at a lot of different locations. So I started talking with those organizers of those events and said, hey, can I set up a booth and sell raffle tickets at your event? And sometimes there's a conflict of interest because those events are raising money for their own nonprofits. And, I wasn't able to sell tickets on site, but I had cards to say, hey, I had the motorcycle on display, you could win this bike. You could support these kids. You can help build tiny homes. You can do these things. Here's a card. Go to the website, do so. And those never, like any cash exchange in some of those events. Now, I had the capability within that program, rafflecreator.com. If a person comes up to me and says, hey, I want to buy a raffle ticket, and they have $1,000 worth of cash sitting in front of me, I'm not going to say, no, I can't take your money. Within that program, you have the ability to manually go in and add people. So if you are that person that wants to sell cash raffle tickets, just know you are now assuming the risk in doing so, because you have to take all of their information and enter it into the system. There was some events where it was chaos. There was lines of people standing in front of the booth, and luckily I had some people helping me in support. And I had these really nice, 5x6 cards with the picture of the motorcycle on the front, and on the back it, had name, phone number, address, email address, all of the, how many tickets you want to purchase. All of that information, they would fill out the back of the card, and then we would do the exchange. And I would take these cards and I would keep them in my money box. And that night at the end of the event, I would literally pull out my laptop and type in each and every name. And the hardest part about that, I'm going to warn anybody that decides to go this route, is not everybody has the greatest handwriting.
Oh,
So it's
been there, done that.
that makes for a tough time. There was a few times where I was just like, the most important thing is email address, because within that program, they get emailed their ticket numbers and their confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important that their email address, I would tell people, write like you're in kindergarten. And they would write like they're in kindergarten, but not really good at writing. So what's great is everybody can write numbers good, pretty much. So I would have to call some people and say, hey, this is Jared Weems from Weems Motor Co. I see that you purchased raffle tickets, and the people are like, did I win? Like, no. We got some time before this thing ends. And I would have to say, hey, I just need to confirm this information, your name. I need to confirm your email address so that I make sure I put it into the system correctly. So it took a little bit extra legwork, but you can have people purchase in cash in person. You just got to think ahead, have some of those cards made up. Just go into events, just make sure that you talk to the organizers so they know everything that you're doing, why you're doing it. It's those connections. You have the passion behind it. You're inspired. You can inspire somebody else to do it. I say it's like you go to the movies and you watch this movie, and it's like incredible movie, and you just got to tell everybody about that movie. You got to have the same when it comes to your support of an organization. You really have to be behind it. You can't just pick an organization and say, hey, I'm a veteran, so I'm just going to use this example. Veterans. Well, if you're not a veteran, you don't have somebody in your family that's a veteran, it's hard for you to connect, but you have to be passionate. You have to be able to tell people this is why you're doing it. So you can inspire even those vendors at those events. There was a few events that were raising money for their organization, and they just said, dude, you're passionate about this. We're going to let you do it.
Right. And you had David and Cindy there too at the events, which helped because then they were there to talk about it and what the organization is too, to get people behind it.
Yeah. They couldn't be at all events. They came to a majority. There was a few events that I went to where they were not able to be there, and it was just me, and I was the face of Forgotten Angels. And I said, if I'm putting my face on it, I want to support them the best way possible that I can. I want to bring the greatest light I can. Sometimes I call up David and Cindy. It's like, hey, it's just me tonight, and I got to set up a full booth. I got to get out motorcycle. I got to do all these. Do you have one of the boys available from Forgotten Angels? Can they go with me? And sometimes it was, one of those kids that's actually going through the process at Forgotten Angels, which to me was even more inspiring because I'm like, look at him. He's why you're doing this, not me. You're supporting this kid. You're getting this kid a tiny home. You're getting this kid a job. You're getting this kid a bank account. You're getting them on his feet. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I had those cards made up, which, had amazing photography. The motorcycle said, win this bike. It had the website, everything at the bottom. And on the flip side was all the information. So, people wanted to purchase. So I could use it as double dip. I literally just hand them out.
Yeah.
And if they wanted to buy, they could go on their own, go to the website, or they can bring the card back to me, whatever. And there was several times where people literally just called me up and said, hey, I want to purchase raffle tickets. And I'm like, okay, well, get your information and da-da-da-da-da. So, yeah, don't think that you got to have all of this media, all of these things, you got to have posters. You got to have all of these things. You can double dip, use the same thing for multiple purposes. Well, when you launch, you have to know your end date. And I wanted to make sure that the raffle wasn't so short we didn't sell enough tickets, or that it was too long that people would forget about it and I forgot it even. Or it becomes a wash in the media field. Like everything you watch is like, oh, it's this again. We see those commercials at late night TV, like, oh, I've seen this 1,000 times. It's like it becomes uninspirable. So we wanted to make sure that we set a timeline. So we launched August 5th, and we set an end date for March the 19th. And the reason I chose the end date was it was the end of Bike Week. It was like the week after Bike Week, and I knew that I was going to go to every event at Bike Week. That whole week was going to be our final push, or like go to all of these places and sell all these tickets. So, and I knew that, all right, well, that'll give me about a week after this last push to make sure that I got everything together. And I wanted to do a huge event, culminating the end of it. And we did. Well, I wanted to have an event on Forgotten Angels property because I wanted so many people to see what they donated to, why they did it. So we set up an event, and as we were thinking through the event, we thought, oh, we could have people come in, ride their bikes there. We can do a camp out. We can have food. We can do, all of these things. And honestly, between you guys and everybody that's listening or watching, it's like that's not my priority. My priority was like, okay, you guys can plan the party, be the party planners. I will do everything else leading up to the party planning, and we'll take care of it, from there. So, and that's what, where David and Cindy and several other people stepped up. I was like, okay, we can do all this. I'm like, okay, you guys got that. I'll take care of everything else. So, yeah. So no start date, no end date. Everything in between is work your tail off. Don't say no to anyone wanting to interview you. You never know who watches their channels. You never know who will become inspired and want to do something to support what you're doing. Man, I got interviewed by people that were in video games. I got people who are into pop culture, obviously motorcycle community people. I did radio interviews, television interviews. I did podcasts, you name it. I did not say no to anybody. I made sure that I was able to schedule each and every person, even if it was the brand new person who had just launched their heavy metal podcast. I'm like, I'm on. I got you. I'll be there. Schedule it. And then some nights I was doing back-to-back interviews, from, all across the country. And it worked. It was, like I said, we raised $106,200, sold 5,001 tickets. And about halfway through, I was like, man, we're selling tickets everywhere. And this was open international. We sat down and said, we want to sell as many tickets as we can. We can provide this much for shipping, and if it goes over that amount, it'll just be the responsibility of the winner of the motorcycle. So my goal became about halfway through. I was like, wow, we sold to 30, 35 states. And I was like, so I made a separate spreadsheet and listed all 50 states. And I was like, I have a goal. I want to sell a ticket to all 50 states, which means Alaska and Hawaii included in that. And I love our international friends, and we were already selling tickets like Malta. Never knew that was a country. But like all these countries, like all over the world, it was so amazing. And it was the last month of the raffle, and we hit all 50 states. And nothing against Idaho, but you guys came in last. So.
But they showed up.
But they showed up. They showed up. That's it. So yeah, it's fun to kind of track it, and that's great about the program was you can literally each month print out a spreadsheet of every ticket that's purchased, so you can see who's purchased the most tickets, how many tickets each person's purchased, like the averages, and it's just it was a really great program to work with, and I recommend it just because of the ease of use and everything.
All right, so I think the end part is a big deal on what you're doing at the end and gathering everybody together to finally say it's here. This is the time. Let's draw these people in, have this event, and pick that winner.
Well, we were fortunate enough to be in Daytona, so we saw you running from every show.
Yes.
As you were running by us, we saw you, and then we were there for the drawing, so we got to kind of see that end part. which was awesome.
Yeah.
Because you did have an awesome opportunity to do that big push, and then all the people showed up for the event. So I think that was a fantastic idea.
Yeah, and at the end event, another thing is like, okay, well, how are we going to announce the winner? Because now we've sold tickets to all 50 states and multiple places across the world. How are we going to pick who wins? We had 4 prize packages, but how are we going to pick those people? And with the program that we used, you had the option. You could print out all of the tickets, and then you have to cut them all up, fold them, and put them in a bucket, which you assume a risk again, because now you've printed everybody's tickets and you can't lose anything. You got to keep it, nice and tight and organized. Or within the program, if that's, 5,001 tickets, we did print the tickets. We did cut everyone. We did fold. I had a team.
I was there. I witnessed this.
Yes.
Yes.
We had a team. We had a team of 10 people. And I told, once you're in this room, you do not leave this room until every ticket has been printed, cut, and then added into the bucket. We started with a little 10-gallon bucket. I'm like, okay, a little 10-gallon bucket. That quickly went to a 5-gallon bucket, which quickly went to just a large Tupperware tote. And so just so many, but I wanted to make sure that, it was legit. So we had cameras set up watching the whole thing. We had people documented saying, hey, we are not messing around. We don't play with this. Like, it has my name on it, and it also has Forgotten Angel's name on it. So I want to make sure that it's legit and right. But if you don't want to take all of that risk within the program, you can actually say randomly generate the winners. And it will randomly generate ticket number 1, ticket number 2, depending on how many prize packages. So I just wanted to have the anticipation of having this big box of tickets and shaking it up. And then we had the boys from Forgotten Angels actually go in and draw each ticket. So I wanted to make sure that that anticipation was there. So you got options with it.
The data that you collected. So doing that raffle and that online raffle and collecting those email addresses and phone numbers and maybe locations and stuff, now you're able to reach out to those individuals again and let them know that you've got something else that you're doing that they can get involved in. So I think that's huge too. People tend to forget that. They don't think about it. So kudos to you for doing that, because they were behind you once, and now that they would love to be behind you again, I'm sure.
Be prepared for the critics. Chances are there's not going to be a whole lot of critics. But there always are people that are kind of, what's a better word, butt hurt because you're doing something and they're not. I guess you could say you're haters or whatever. Don't let that shake you, because if you know you're doing it for a good reason and you know that everything you've done is with the utmost of integrity, don't worry about what people think, what people say. Just keep pushing forward with it. Don't become discouraged when you only sell 2 tickets at an event that you spent, $100 to purchase a booth at. Just look at the bigger picture, that you're doing something with your integrity, with all of your integrity. You're using your intellect, you're using your talent, you're using your ability to push it forward, inspire other people, because it's going to inspire people to do the same. There's so many people that came after me said, you were successful in doing this. How do I do that also? And I would just say, hey, here's what I did. Go for it. And, there's been several people that have launched their own raffles after this. Shortly after me, Forgotten Angels teamed up with Shade Tree Surgeon and raffled off another motorcycle, and they raised over $270,000. So the machine works. It just takes you putting the work in to make sure that the machine gets started and goes.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, and thank you to Jared with Weems Motor Co. for giving us the insight on how to go about doing a huge event like this and how to be organized when doing it. And we'll see you guys all next time.
Real quick, guys, go follow Jared. He's doing awesome things, and you can be involved.